I'm going to start by asking a couple of questions. The first question is to myself, and it's a question I've asked myself quite a few times, which is, am I turning into my aunt and her dandelion tea? The second question is for everyone, me included, which is caring about sustainability sustainable? So yes, this is a tale of rebranding, of rephrasing, reframing and reinvention. And in the 70s, when I was growing up, now you know how old I am, I was sort of aware of levels of greenness and levels of caring. And my grandpop, I thought, was very green. He had an allotment and he kept geese. And my parents, to a lesser degree, had a small area in their garden that they dedicated to growing veg and some raspberries and loads of rhubarb. At the same time, though, they teased my aunt because she liked to drink her dandelion tea, and they said that made her a hippie. Anyway, so I was teased too as a teenager. I had ginger hair and loads of freckles. I was also teased because I wore a lot of jumble sale clothes, and my mum made my clothes on the dining table, and my father was he repaired cars for a living. So I decided I needed to get away from that teasing and name calling, and when I was 18 I became an art student and I completely reinvented and rebranded. So that was possibly my first rebrand, and I got rid of the ginger hair and bleached it peroxide blonde. I shaved it, I had it spiky. I kind of did that punky goth thing where I had big panda eyes. I was still wearing second-hand clothes, but I was buying them from the charity shop, oversized men's shirts and waistcoats, that sort of thing. So after 4 years of being at art college, I decided that I would be a businesswoman. I thought that I would, wear pencil skirts and high shoes, and I thought I needed to reinvent myself, and I ran a design studio in the sort of corporate world. And at the same time, I had a large mobile phone, a filer fax, and I had a personal organiser. But my sister was on a very different level to me. She was going on marches, she smelt of patchouli oil, and she collected jam jars, that sort of thing. And she teased me terribly, teasing again. And her name for me was the Filofax Yuppie, which my family found very amusing, and me not so much. In the early 2000s, I became a mother, and I was still power dressing, yet I thought that perhaps perhaps my sister did have the right idea. I looked out in her garden, and her garden now looked like my dad's allotment, and her kids were eating pesticide-free veg, and her kids were wearing organic fair trade clothing, and I was still power dressing with my baby and had a stay-at-home dad. But I had around that time met a amazing woman who was the founder of a ethical kidswear brand. So I went from working 6 days a week with department store, running their design studio for 53 department stores, and went to work 4 days a week with this ethical kidswear brand, flexibly working and learning about ethical sourcing and good environmental practices, and how that impacted on me and my family as well as the people making those clothes. I've written up there niche. I found my niche. So that sort of quiet, gentle awakening some 20 years ago directed my career to working with ethical and sustainable brands on the same moral wavelength as me. Around the same time, I started a blog and a new to me social media platform, and I was broadcasting the things I was learning and quietly hoping that that could make an impact. Yet, mixing with these like-minded people, I just found myself in a kind of eco bubble. So, post-pandemic and popping my head above the parapet, I was looking at all of the things that were going on and things, the slow progress of the world to change things and set things right for things like the climate crisis and the refugee crisis and modern slavery in ethical fashion. I was, really aware of friends saying things like, "Oh, Ali, you're like this. It's made of organic cotton," or "Ali, you're like this. It's biodegradable." And they never said it with malice, but I was sort of disappointed that they felt like that about me, and that, I was the sort of anomaly amongst my friends, the kind of eco do-gooder, the tree hugger. Recently, a very dear, funny, creative friend of mine turned 50, and for her birthday she made several of her special friends a little ceramic house, and on that little ceramic house she put a really sweet sort of statement that was pertinent to that person that she was gifting the house. And mine said simply, "A friend of the earth lives here." Yeah. I really love that little house, and it sits on my mantelpiece above where I work, and I look at it every day, and I'm really grateful that she made that for me. It's a lovely gift. But at the same time, I held this silent, private sadness, and I wondered, and I was sort of befuddled and confused, and wondered, doesn't everyone think like that? Isn't everyone a friend of the earth? Eco-anxiety was kicking in. It was, though. It was around this time that I was trying to get a prescription for HRT. So that's perhaps why I was a little extra with my anxiety. The Japanese and other cultures call the menopause a renewal of life and energy. So perhaps it was a good time. Another friend of mine gave me the advice to pick my cause, and it made me think about bringing it back to local. And I met some local activists and started to think, actually, making these small local connections and local actions can actually start to make an impact. The bigger picture, certainly for me, was just too much of an overload. And I think that bringing it back and acting locally, can really sort of start to make ripples. This actually brings me back to when I was an art student, and my first project at art college was on the theme of think global, act local, and that's something that stayed with me for probably some 35 years now, and I never really acted upon it. So with these local circular economy concepts, we're finding that they're getting a rebrand as well. So, you know, your school jumble sale might become the pre-loved clothing swap, and the second-hand shop on the high street, maybe now it's the vintage shop on the high street. And freckles apparently are now fashionable, and people are applying their own freckles with eyeliner pens, or if you're on social media, there's a filter called Real Freckles, which a lot of people have been, 13 million people apparently have used that filter, and there's loads of them. So with this upsurge of local action, I've seen many local organisations organically rising to several of the sustainability development goals. One of my clients locally in South East London has started delivering their orders locally by bicycle courier, and within maybe a 7 or 8 mile radius, and this saves 2.3 kilos of carbon emission per delivery. A zero waste chef that I know of in Ireland some 7 years ago banned the sale of single-use plastics in his cafes, and that has saved 10 million single-use plastic bottles from going into the waste stream. And locally, we've heard here in southwest London, the new scheme, the Green Enterprise scheme, encouraging eco-reluctant local businesses to come on board with community action and greener concepts, incentivised with up to 70% discount on their business rates. Another local project that I heard about and I've been involved with is a plant nursery just up the road. I don't know which way I'm pointing. Who have monthly repair cafes where you can go along and learn how to repair household appliances. So not just get them fixed, you're learning how to repair them. And something I've been doing, a bit of darning. I've been learning how to mend moth holes in jumpers and teaching other people how to do that, and working with a charity to take their damaged goods and bring them back and repair them and then put them back into sale. So, any of you got any moth holes, just give me a shout. Something else that's happening locally is, I think mentioned earlier too, this amazing community farm. It's producing seasonal fruit and veg. It's run by a small team, and there's a larger team who volunteer, and I've started doing that myself. And they're delivering them locally, and in fact the kitchen here at this grassroots carbon neutral music venue use the food here. And you couldn't get much more local. Than my own back garden. Excuse me. So, 18 years ago, my mum, right, 18 years ago, my mum planted some rhubarb, her own rhubarb, in the earth in my back garden. And coincidentally, 18 years ago, I had my second son. And with a little drip of water, that rhubarb in my back garden continues to grow. And every summer, we pull fresh stems of rhubarb and we make rhubarb pie and rhubarb cake and rhubarb crumble with custard. And with a little drip drip of eco-nudging from me, the friend of the earth that lives in this little house, that 18-year-old washes out his tin cans and separates his soft plastics and puts them in the recycling bin beside where the rhubarb grows. So both those forms of organic growth give me hope and a little sense of joy, quiet joy and pride. So yes, with some consideration, caring about sustainability can be sustainable. And if anybody would like to join me afterwards for a cup of dandelion tea, you'd be most welcome. I thank you.